Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today is a long weekend here in Canada and it's been rainy and gloomy, but just right now it's a little bit with the sun trying to peep out, so I thought I would just make a quick video. I've been playing with two of the new stamp sets. This is an online exclusive and it's similar to one we've had before with these like sentiments and then a curly line, and I really love them for long narrow sentiment labels. And the other one I'm using is Gallery Blooms. Now this is something from the new catalogue. Let me just show you. I don't have all of the pieces. I have the Gallery Blooms that has no sentiments and the matching dies. I loved this little rectangular, almost like a photograph frame in it. And I think I am going to buy this sentiment set because I like some of the sentiments on there, and also it would just work for some of the card classes that I'm running at the moment. And I have the embossing folder and I have the beautiful paper, which you've probably seen lots of demonstrators showing. It is so pretty. But today I'm just going to use the floral one that I have. And let me show you the card. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay, so this is what I've made. It's just very simple, almost monochromatic. I've used two of the new ink colours, the cloud colour on the designer series paper and the secret C for the backing and the ink. And when you open it, it just has a very simple little piece inside to write a sentiment or, just to put good wishes in. And it's a really quick and easy card to make. So let me show you how I made it. First, I used the 2025-2027 new in colours, and you could have used either the cloud cover or the secret C, and it's the secret C that I'm using. And when these kind of things first come out, I always buy a multi-pack because I never know which ones I'm going to love best. So I don't make many orange or yellow cards, so I wasn't sure I wanted a full pack of those. But I already know that I want a full pack of the cloud cover and a full pack of the secret C. So I've already cut my card. Let's move this out of the way, give us a bit of space. And I've popped on this little note just the pieces I've used. So my card base is 4 1/4 by 11, and I've already scored at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to cut a little piece off. I'm going to use one of the pieces for this middle, and then the other piece that I cut off will become the bottom. There's only this floral image that's keeping the two pieces held together. We haven't got any window sheet in there or anything. So to get my measurements, I actually had to use the dies. Now, these dies are a fairly new set for Stampin' Up. They're called Textured Note, and you may have seen me use them before. Each of the rectangles has a different pattern, and I chose this one. You could use a bigger one and get the whole of the stamp on, but I chose this one because it was just right for the shape of the card I wanted to make. And so I have that already cut out, and I cut off two pieces using that die. And you see this beautiful little pattern that runs all the way around it. So I've got those. I've also used this long, thin sentiment rectangle. And again, I've already stamped those. I haven't stamped them. I've already cut them out. Okay. I've got two just in case I go wrong. So we can put those out of the way, give us even more space. And then the designer series paper that I used is this one, which is called Florals in Bloom. And again, it's from the new offerings. And I chose to use this one that has the cloud cover. It has beautiful flowers on the back, but I don't want flowers today. So that's what I've used. But you could, if you used your backing as cloud cover card, you could use this one for your designer series paper on the card. That's really pretty. I do have 2 packs of this because I know I'm going to use it a lot. Okay, let's go back to cutting our card base. So once our card is folded in half, you'll see it's just a plain ordinary base. But I'm going to cut those pieces off for the middle and for the bottom. And I need to cut off first a piece that's 2.5 inches. So to make that easy, all I do is slide the whole of the card base through the trimmer. And then this left-hand side piece, I'm going to line it up at 2.5. And that actually leaves a 3-inch piece here. And I'm just going to cut that in half at 1.5. And then I know that the top and bottom are exactly the same. I don't have to do any funky little measurements. It's easy to do. And then my designer series paper, I need a 4-inch strip and I need 2 pieces cut at 1.25. So here is my 4-inch strip. I'm just going to cut 1.25, 1.25. If you wanted to have, instead of designer series paper, if you wanted to have cardstock and emboss it with the matching embossing folder, that would look really pretty too. Okay, so here's our 2 pieces of designer series paper, and that's it. That's all we need. I am loving at the moment doing just like monochrome, single colours, or using my blender pen. That's what I've used on this. And I've also made another card that I've only just videoed. You won't see it for a couple of weeks probably, but it's this one. So it's exactly the same stamp set, but I've used white pigment ink and then garden green ink and petal pink. And again, I just used the blender pen. If you didn't want to use a blender pen, you could certainly colour this. You could use watercolour crayons and colour it. You could even use, I did this one in it, if you can pick it up, you can even use a wink of Stella to take the ink and spread it around. So if you wanted something a little bit more glittery, then the wink of Stella might be the way to go. So I've got these pieces ready. I am going to put on my designer series paper and I'm going to trim this one down because it's slightly too wide for what we need. Not too wide, look, it's too long. So I need to cut just a tiny bit off. Instead of being 4.25, which is the width of the card, I only need it to be 4. So I'm just going to trim that down. That's the only little piece of waste we have. Okay, so let's pop that there. Just get the bone folder and squish this down so that it's ready to go. And then I've got my 2 pieces of designer series paper. I'm just going to use seal to pop it on. You could use a liquid glue, you could use tear and tape, whatever glue you normally use. Nope, that's fine, they all work. You'll have a nice little border all the way around. Oh, a little bit far at that end. Let's move it into the middle. There we go. And again, this piece is going to be at the top of the card. Pop it this way. Again, you've got that nice little border. And can you see how once you hold this here, it's going to become the bottom of your card. This piece is going to stick on the top like this, and that will hold this piece in place so that you can open and close your card, no problem. Now, for our piece that goes on here, I showed you that I was using these little die cuts. So I've got one for the front and one is to go inside, and on that one I'm just going to stamp one of the other little images. So let's get those out, and while we're doing all our stamping, we might as well do our sentiment. Now, the ones that I used were the hello there, but all of these would actually fit. If you're not sure how to fit them, I always just cut one of these out, and then you end up with something like this. And you can just have a look at all of your stamp sets. Just hold this over the top and think, oh yeah, that's going to work. No, that one's too wide, this one's too short. But you can certainly just easily pop that over and see if it's going to work for you. And then what I tend to do after is I keep them Well, I keep them with the dies, but I keep them sort of handy so that I can use them. Now, let's do our stamping. I'm going to start with the floral image. And it's quite a big stamp. You can stamp it straight from the ink pad by doing it like this. But when it's a big stamp, I find it easier to put my stamp down and put my ink pad on top. And that way, I can tell if everything's inked up, if I've missed any parts. I don't have lines from the edge of the ink pad or anything. I'm going to pop a little bit of scrap down because it will be too large for the die cut. Okay, and I'm just going to pop it on. I'm just going to pop it at a little angle. See where the most of the floral image is that I can get on. I'm going to hold it for a second or two. And can you see how some of the stem isn't on, tiny little bit on the edge of the flowers, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. Let's quickly clean this. I've already got inky fingers today. I don't need any more ink on my fingers because I then generally transfer it onto my card. Okay, so for the inside, I'm going to use that little floral image, this little tiny one, but you could use any of them. You could even use this again, stamp off and have it really light so that you could write over it when you're doing your greeting for inside. I'm going to pop that on there, and I would probably do the same on my envelope. I won't put that away because we're going to do our sentiment. Let's just clean this one. Okay, and then let's move that one. And the sentiment, I've already got it on. I've got the hello there one. Let's ink it up. It will be slightly too long. This little curly bit, there'll be too much of it, and that's okay. I don't need all of it. Just going to pop that down. I haven't gone all the way to the left-hand side. Can you see how I've left just a tiny little gap? If you wanted to put a gem on there, you could move this down slightly, give yourself a little bit more space. Okay, that's all our inking done. That's really quick. 3 things to ink, that's all. And I'll leave this one to dry over here. And let's do our colouring. So, as I said earlier, I'm going to use a blender pen. Now, I use these a lot, whoops, and I always just check that they're clean by just going onto clean paper with them, and once you can no longer see any ink, then you know it's clean. And you just use it almost like a pencil or a paintbrush. I start at the darker part of the ink and I just move that ink along, and can you see how it picks up that ink? If you find that you're doing this and you need a little bit more ink and you haven't got enough on the stamped image, you can always pop this blender pen onto an ink pad as well and just take a little bit. Now, I'm not colouring all the way to the edges. I'm leaving some little white parts. I'm just making sure that where the lines are on the stamp, I've gone over those little bits so that I've got a little bit darker ink. Because when Stampin' Up! Make these, if they put lines on, it usually means you have like a little shadow, or you just need it to be a tiny bit darker. And you don't have to be any kind of an artist. As you can tell, I'm no kind of an artist. Just moving that ink slightly. And the liquid that's in the blender pen just easily dries and moves that ink around perfectly. You will find as you're going along, your blender pen will pick up a little bit more ink. If you find you've got too much, just clean it on your paper. So simple, isn't it? And then as it's drying, have a look. And if you think, oh, do you know, that's not quite dark enough, go back over that ink, pop a little bit more on. It's so simple to paint or to colour with these. I always feel like I am almost an artist when I do this. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do. You can see there are light patches, dark patches. It's not perfect, but it will look really pretty. I'm going to do the same with this little piece, just so that it matches. And if you're going to do your envelope like this, do it at the same time. You've already got a little bit of ink on your blender pen, and it just makes it easy to do it all at once. Okay, there we are. That's them done. Quick as a flash. My blender pen is clean. Let's move that out of the way. And I'm going to adhere this one to the little base that we made. You see how, because we trimmed it down slightly, it now has that beautiful border all the way around. And again, just use whatever adhesive you like to work with. I alternate between using my seal and my liquid glue. Just depends how I feel that day. Okay, so time to put the card together. Right. This is the piece. We're going to line it up at the bottom, and then we're just going to attach this here. And you only need adhesive at the top and the bottom. No point having any in the middle because there's actually nothing to adhere in the middle. So I'm just going to do one row and then go over it slightly just to make it a tiny bit wider at the top, and the same at the bottom. Go over it just a little bit. There we go. So we're going to hold this in place. Pop that on here. And I'm using my grid pattern here just to hold it still and make sure I'm in a straight line. And then I'm going to gingerly lay it on the top. You can make it so that it's exactly in the middle. You can have it a little bit lower down if you need. But once you know where you want to have it and where your glue needs to be, it's really simple just to attach that. And see how the whole of that front base now opens easily. I always just run my finger over at the back, check I haven't got any adhesive there. I haven't, but if I did, I'd just use my glue eraser and take it off. Okay, now we need to put the piece in the middle. And what I do is I open it and I sort of put it, line it up in the middle there. Then I lay it down and think, oh, you know, I'm eyeballing, that's generally where it needs to be. Let me just put the adhesive on the back. This can go all the way across, this adhesive. Okay, so I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to just hold it there, close it. So it's got to be about there, but I just want to make sure it's lovely and level. And before I firmly attach it, I'm going to close it. I can't see any of the white at the sides, so I know it's in the right place. Okay. Let me just get that little bone folder again. Just go over that. There we go. Okay, so now we've just got the little sentiment to put on. You could put this underneath at the bottom. I've got mine going over like this, but you put it wherever you want. If you think it looks nicer here and you want to see all of the flower, that's fine. I'm going to attach mine here and I'm going to use small dimensionals. I'm only going to put them in the middle. So I'm going to use 4 and I'm just going to pop them a little distance apart. And before I glue it on, I'm going to just put that on there and check that they're all in the right place. Yes, they are. They're not going to overhang. You're not going to be able to see them. So we'll take that backing off. Oh, they are difficult to see, these little ones. Do you remember when we used to put little dots on them so that you could see whether you'd taken the backings off and things? It was fashionable a few years ago. We used to put just a little marker pen dot on each one so that you could tell if you'd taken them off. Okay, so I'm lining this up. I'm checking that it's sort of in the middle and that there's the same gap, the left and the right. Move it over slightly and check if that's level. Yes, it is. Hold it down. There we are. And then I'm going to use some of the new flat pearls. These are the in colour flat pearls. I'll just take this off. It's stuck on, look. It's got all of the in colours. I love that they're not too deep, so that when I'm posting these, you know, they're not sticking out through the envelope. They're not making it larger so that I have to use more stamps or anything. And I'm just going to pop them. I'm going to pop 2 in this white space here and just 1 up here. And I'm using 1 of each size. So I'm going to put the larger one up here in this corner. And it's almost like oil on water. You see those colours in there? Really pretty, these ones. Okay, so I've got a small one here. I'm going to pop this down near this little leaf here. And then my middle size one, I'm going to pop up here. You could use all small ones. You could put one of your gems on your sentiment label, wherever you want, wherever your eye thinks that looks pretty. Okay, and there you are. Really quick and easy little, it's not really a fun fold, but it just looks a little bit different. And you haven't used any extra card because this piece has come out of the middle. You haven't had to cut extra. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm just going to go and take some pictures of it and then I'll upload it to YouTube for you. Nice to see everybody again. Thanks so much for joining me and I'll see you all again really soon. Bye bye everybody.